friends, thanks for joining me again. Dave here from Barmetrics and the Bar Shift. I'm kicking off a new series that I find fascinating. It's really interesting content to me, and that is the generational series. And I'm going to explore the introduction of Generation Z into the workplace and into the marketplace, and what the impact that might have on our business and how that will interact with the millennial generation. The reason that I got onto this recently was because I have two millennials, Gen Y, and two Gen Zers, and there's I don't know how many years apart. There's like 10 years difference between the two, and it occurred to me my Gen Zers are working. I've got my youngest daughter is at 15 working at Kroger. And my other daughter, who's now 18, has been working either with me in my business or in retail since she was 15. Very, very eager to get into the workforce. And my millennials were kind of your classic millennials. That wasn't a priority for them. They wanted to do other things. Millennials are very experiential in general. And so they were more interested in experiences than they were getting into the workforce. And it takes me, I've always been interested in this topic, and it takes me back to basically we're all a product of our childhood. And we're going to use generalizations today. Of course, not everyone is an exact reflection of their generation, but there is a lot of really great data. And I'm going to be using books, which I was a big fan of the Millennial Myth, which helped me understand some stuff about millennials better. I've got a really cool McKinsey study here on Gen Z that I'll attach my source material to the bottom, and I still have my readers on. Sorry, that's why I forgot my readers on. That's why I've got these things on, is I've got all this material in front of me, and I find it absolutely fascinating. But I also fear that we could be making some really big mistakes with these Gen Zers coming up, because they are significantly different than millennials. And what's happened too is there's some compression that's happened. Since millennials were a little slow to get started, and Gen Zs are starting early, we're going to see some real compression in the workforce. Not maybe as much in the marketplace, but I'm going to chop this up. This is going to be the intro. Then we're going to talk about the workforce, and then we're going to talk about the marketplace, or else I'm afraid we're going to have too much content here. So get on with it, Dave. I hear you. All right, so here's the deal. We're all a product of our childhood. So Gen Z came up post 9/11, came up in the Great Recession era. Some of their experiences were watching families lose wealth. They are very, very pragmatic as a result, very practical. They're also the first native digital generation. So they only know a world that's digital. They're more likely to remember when they got their first phone as they are getting their first bike, if they even had a bike, which is a massive culture change compared to millennials who came up in the boom times of the 90s and the early aughts, and really were raised by baby boomers who were maybe the most financially successful generation of all time, and they didn't want for much. So they weren't in a quest for material things. They started looking for experiences because they already had that stuff. So right there sets up a pretty big contradiction between two generations, and one's coming up and it's going to be managed by the other large in part. And I think one of the mistakes everyone's making, and even I made, was you're thinking that these young kids coming up are millennials. They're not. But because it took us so long to figure out millennials and understand how to motivate them, and sort of what was going on in the heads of theirs, it feels like there's not time. Like it's not time for the next generation. They're here. They're already 18 to 23. 23-year-olds are part of Gen Z. So they're graduating college right now, and they're entering into the workforce. Hosts and hostesses and servers certainly are going to be in this age bracket. And if you're like me, you're going to look at them and go, that's a millennial. That's not even close to a millennial. It's really, really different. Let me just tell you, another big difference between the two. And again, I'm an exception to what I'm about to say, that most millennials were raised by baby boomers, which I mentioned earlier. Most Zers were raised by Xers. So I've got 2 and 2. So what baby boomers, for the most part, taught millennials was the world's your oyster. You could be anything you want to be. It was the participation trophy sort of generation. And I know that's always been used as this lexicon of negativity as why millennials were not as motivated as what they should have been in our minds. But millennials were fine. It's just they weren't behaving the way Xers like me wanted them to. Xers like me, in rejection of the participation award type of mentality, taught Zers, who are our kids for the most part, that there's consequences and the world owes you nothing and you've got to go win. So we're introducing this new generation of more aggressive thinking, pragmatic workers into the workplace who are going to be managed by, large in part, millennials. Ooh, see the rub there? So if you think about communication styles, millennials like to do things in general as a group. They group text, they group date, they group organize very much. If I asked you, how would Gen Z prefer to communicate? What's the number one preferred communication style of a Gen Zer, given that they are digital natives? I know what I'd say. Digital, right? Probably text. No. In the McKinsey survey that I've studied, and they studied like 1,800 Zers that are in the workforce or in the marketplace, they found that about 85% of them prefer face-to-face communication. They don't want digital communication. They have a great value around uniqueness and their individuality, because coming up in the digital age, everything's been customized to them. They're used to being able to customize avatars, customize ringtone, customize home screens, customize colors, custom. So they're used to things being really narrowed down just for them. It's fascinating. I would have never thought it. Didn't see it coming. So I thought, holy cow, this is at least worth digging into further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this part as the setup and say, hey, here it comes. Here's something to think about. New people coming into the workplace. How are we going to manage to that differently? At the same time, it very much affects the marketplace. I was talking to my brother recently who went out for dinner, and he went out to this healthy place. He says, man, I didn't think I was going out to dinner. I thought it was a cleanse. He was like, there's nothing in here for me. So Gen Z's grown up in a world where there were calorie counts on every menu. They grew up in a world where the school food had healthy options. You have a lot of vegetarian Gen Zers. Look, if you're a Gen Xer, that all sounds like punishment. Like that's what if you did something wrong, that was the punishment. We wanted Coke and pizza and ice cream and Big Macs, right? So this other stuff, what's going on? So I think it's fascinating. So I want to explore all that so much more. So this is the setup. And then we'll do the workplace stuff. I'm going to do more research between now and then. I hope to get the second one out in maybe 2 to 3 weeks. I always get over enthusiastic and do it faster than that. But anyway, let's say 2 to 3 weeks on the workplace implications of Gen Z. And then 2 weeks after that, I want to take some more time and do a little more research on the marketplace implications as well. And are we positioning ourselves properly? So the first thing I want you to consider is, or keep in mind, is that if you have someone 23 and younger, they're not a millennial, and they came up in a decidedly different world and a decidedly different experience than what your millennials did, and they're going to want different things. So have your radar up for that. I think that's the perfect setup. And like I said, I'm going to put my source material. I'll put them. I would encourage everyone to read the McKinsey study. The McKinsey study is full of really good stuff, and I'm going to keep looking for more content. I have a few other things, but a lot of them are saying the same thing. And I want to get some more diverse perspectives on it. And then also the millennial myth, which is just a shout out for, I enjoyed this book and it helped me out a lot understanding the generations. So that's it for now. More to come. Like and follow, subscribe, and all that happy stuff. And as always, I appreciate you checking me out, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, bud.